Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to hear me tonight. God is opening a door for you. Now, I want you to understand that the door isn't just any door. Faith is the key that unlocks every door in your life. When you stand at the threshold of opportunity, the thing that will get you through is not your bank account, not your connections, not even your abilities. It is faith. I want you to understand that faith isn't just a religious word or a concept that we talk about in church. It is the very substance that makes things happen in the spiritual and physical realms. It is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. So many times, we think that in order for something to happen, we must have everything figured out. We believe that we need to have the perfect plan, the perfect resources, and the perfect timing. But let me tell you, when God decides to open a door for you, He doesn't always wait for you to have everything in order. He waits for you to trust Him, to believe that even when you can't see it, He's working behind the scenes on your behalf. Faith is not about waiting until everything aligns perfectly in your life before you move. Faith is about taking a step when you don't know what's going to happen next. It's about trusting that God will make a way, even when there seems to be no way. It's easy to believe when you can see it, but faith is about believing when you can't see it at all. And when you step out in faith, that's when God begins to move in ways you couldn't have planned or predicted. You see, faith is what connects you to the supernatural power of God. It opens up the channels for God to do what only He can do. The Bible says in Hebrews 11:6, without faith, it is impossible to please God. And if it's impossible to please God without faith, then it must be the very thing that activates His work in your life. When you act in faith, God responds. When you trust Him with your whole heart, even in the midst of uncertainty, you give Him the opportunity to reveal His glory through you. Faith is not a passive waiting game. It's an active force. It doesn't just sit there and wait for things to happen. It believes that things will happen. Faith is not merely about wishing for something to happen. Faith is about knowing that God has already gone before you and that He's already preparing the way. It's about walking forward in the confidence that He is at work in your life, even when you don't see the results yet. Think about the story of the Israelites when they were about to cross the Jordan River. God promised them the land on the other side, but there was a problem. The river was at flood stage, and the people didn't know how they were going to cross. But God told them to step into the water, and as they stepped into the river with faith, the waters parted. That moment didn't come when they stood on the shore thinking about it. It came when they took a step in faith. They couldn't see the path ahead, but their faith in God caused the miracle to happen. That's what faith does. It makes the impossible possible. Faith is the thing that will enable you to walk through a door you thought was locked. It's the thing that will carry you into new seasons of blessings and opportunities. But the key is that you have to take the first step. You cannot wait until everything looks perfect. You cannot wait for all the pieces of your life to fall into place. You have to trust that God is working things out even when you don't have all the details. Now, don't confuse faith with denial or wishful thinking. Faith is not about pretending that things are okay when they're not. It's about having a deep-rooted confidence in God's promises, even when the situation looks bleak. It's about saying, I know that God is for me, and He has a plan for my life, so I'm going to keep going even when things don't make sense. Faith doesn't ignore reality. It acknowledges that reality may be difficult, but chooses to trust in God's greater reality, His sovereignty, and His power. There are moments when you feel overwhelmed, when the door before you seems too big, too far away, or even too locked. But you must remember that God's promises never fail. His word never returns void. When He says He's going to do something, He will do it. Faith is believing that what God has promised will come to pass, even when you don't know how it will happen. Think about the people in the Bible who acted in faith. Abraham was promised that he would be the father of many nations, but he was old and had no children. Yet he believed, and God counted it to him as righteousness. He didn't know how God would do it, but he believed that God could. Moses was told to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, but he had no army, no power, and no clear path ahead. Yet, when God told him to move, Moses stepped out in faith, and the Red Sea parted. When you step out in faith, you are participating in a divine exchange. You are saying to God, I trust you with what I cannot control. I trust you to open the door that I can't see, to make a way where there seems to be no way. That kind of faith gets God's attention. The truth is, when you stand in faith, you unlock the doors of heaven. You position yourself for a move of God in your life. So when the doors before you seem closed, when the opportunities seem impossible, remember that faith is the key. If you have faith, the door will open. Your faith will open doors that no man can shut, and God will move mountains on your behalf. When you stand firm in faith, you begin to see God move in ways that you never expected. Your faith will take you places you've never been, to blessings you never imagined, and into a future that is brighter than you could have ever hoped for. Keep believing, keep trusting, and keep moving forward. God is opening a door for you, and faith is the key that will unlock it. God's timing is one of the most important aspects of His plan for our lives. Many times we find ourselves in situations where we are eagerly waiting for something, waiting for a door to open, waiting for a breakthrough, waiting for the right opportunity. But there's a critical truth we must come to understand. God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't line up with our own. The truth is, we don't always understand the timing of God. We think that if we work hard enough or pray long enough, things should happen on our terms. We feel that the right time should be when we are ready, when everything seems to be falling into place. But God operates on a different timeline, one that goes far beyond what we can see or understand. And in His wisdom, He will only open the door for us at the right moment, even if we don't immediately grasp why that moment is so crucial. God is not bound by time in the way that we are. In fact, the Bible tells us that He is eternal and operates outside of our understanding of time. Psalm 90:4 says, "For 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night." This is a reminder that God does not view time the way we do. What seems like a long delay to us might be a brief moment in God's perspective. And while we might be impatient and frustrated with the waiting, God is using that waiting period to prepare us, to refine us, and to set things in motion for our greater good. The waiting can feel like the hardest part of the journey. We may have clear desires, we may have a vision for our lives, but it seems like the door we are praying for is just not opening. We pray, we work, we wait, and nothing happens, but it's precisely in these moments that we must remind ourselves of God's perfect timing. The Apostle Paul writes in Romans 8:28 that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. This means that even in the moments of waiting, God is working things out for our good. He may not be answering our prayers in the way or at the time we expect, but He is always working behind the scenes, setting up everything for the perfect moment. There are moments in life when it feels like the door should open immediately. It feels like the time is now, but we have to trust that God sees the bigger picture. Perhaps there are details He is still working on, things we cannot see yet. Perhaps He is positioning people and circumstances in our lives that we don't even know about. There are so many factors at play that we cannot comprehend, but God sees it all. His timing ensures that when the door does open, it opens at the right time, in the right way, and with the right people. We often talk about being in the right place at the right time, but we rarely stop to consider what that truly means. In God's world, being in the right place at the right time is about being fully prepared for the opportunity He is about to give you. And you might be wondering, but I feel ready now. Yet God knows that sometimes we need more preparation. Whether it's a lesson we need to learn, a skill we need to develop, or a piece of character we need to grow. What seems like a delay is actually preparation. Think about the story of Joseph in the Bible. Joseph had a dream at a young age, a dream where his family would one day bow down to him. He was excited and told his brothers, but instead of it coming to pass immediately, his life took a series of unexpected turns. He was sold into slavery, wrongfully imprisoned, and went through years of hardship. He had no idea why these things were happening to him, but through all his suffering, God was preparing him for the moment when the door would finally open. When the time came, Joseph was not only in the right place, but was also equipped to handle the responsibility that came with his promotion. The timing of God's plan for Joseph was perfect, even though Joseph didn't understand it at the time. This is where we often struggle. We want things to happen on our schedule. We want to see instant results, and when we don't, we start to doubt God's timing. But God's timing is always for our good. In fact, God often uses our waiting to teach us patience and to strengthen our faith. When we don't have control over the timing of our blessings, we have no choice but to trust Him more deeply, to lean on His wisdom, and to surrender our own sense of urgency. We must be willing to wait, trusting that when the time is right, the door will open and we will walk through it with a greater sense of purpose, strength, and clarity. In the waiting season, we need to remember that God's delays are not denials. Just because a door hasn't opened yet doesn't mean it's not going to. It simply means that God is preparing us for the moment when the door will swing wide open. Trust that He is moving things around behind the scenes, orchestrating circumstances, and aligning everything perfectly for the time when you will walk through that door. God knows the perfect moment when you are truly ready for the next step. And when that moment comes, the door will open effortlessly. You will look back and see that everything you experienced, every delay, every season of waiting, was part of His divine plan to bring you to the place where you are today. The door might not open when you want it to, but when it does, you will realize that the wait was worth it. So hold on, be patient, trust God's timing even when it doesn't make sense. His plan for your life is bigger than what you can see right now, and His timing is perfect. When the time is right, He will open the door for you. And when He does, it will be the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, and you will be prepared to walk through it into the blessings He has for you. Being ready for the opportunity is a crucial element when God opens a door for you. While faith and timing are essential, the preparation you undergo before the door opens is just as important. Far too often, people expect blessings to come without considering the work required to fully embrace and sustain those blessings. It's one thing to have the door open, but it's another thing entirely to be ready to walk through it and step into the new season God is preparing for you. Preparation for the opportunity involves more than just physical readiness. It encompasses spiritual, emotional, and mental readiness. Each of these areas requires intentional growth and development, because when the door opens, you'll need to walk through it with confidence, wisdom, and strength. If you're not prepared, you might miss the opportunity or fail to handle it well once you're on the other side. Let's take a closer look at how you can prepare yourself for the doors God is opening in your life. First, spiritual readiness is paramount. You need to be grounded in your relationship with God before you can walk through the door He's opening. This means spending time in prayer, seeking God's guidance, and listening to His voice. When you're spiritually prepared, you're able to discern His will more clearly and navigate through life's challenges with peace and clarity. Sometimes God's timing means you need to go through a season of spiritual growth to prepare you for the blessings ahead. You might find yourself drawn closer to Him through a season of prayer, reflection, and worship. During this time, God is strengthening your faith, helping you to trust Him more deeply, and making you more resilient to handle whatever comes next. It's also important to be emotionally prepared. Emotional readiness is the ability to manage your feelings in a way that allows you to navigate new opportunities with grace. You must recognize that as you step into new doors, there will be challenges, setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. It's easy to get discouraged when things don't go as planned, but if you're emotionally prepared, you can face those challenges with perseverance. Emotional preparation means understanding yourself, your fears, your strengths, and your weaknesses, and being willing to confront the areas where you need healing or growth. God often uses difficult seasons to help us grow emotionally, so we become more equipped to handle the blessings and responsibilities He's about to give us. Mental readiness is another critical part of the preparation process. It involves cultivating a mindset of growth and resilience. When you step into a new opportunity, you may be faced with challenges that require you to think critically, solve problems, and adjust your approach. If your mind isn't prepared for these changes, you might feel overwhelmed or out of your depth. But a mindset that embraces learning, adapts to new situations, and stays focused on your purpose will help you navigate the door that God is opening. This mental readiness comes from a combination of learning new skills, gaining knowledge, and developing a growth mindset that says, I may not know everything, but I am willing to learn and trust God to guide me. Being prepared also means letting go of the old. Before you walk through a new door, you must often release what you have known, even if it's comfortable. Old habits, old mindsets, and old relationships might need to be laid down. Sometimes we hold on to what is familiar because it feels safe. But God is calling you to step into something new, and in order to do that, you must be willing to leave behind what no longer serves you. The old can't go with you into the new. You can't carry your old way of thinking, your old fears, or your old doubts into the new season God is preparing for you. If you try to drag the past along with you, it will only weigh you down and prevent you from fully experiencing the new opportunities ahead. Preparation is also about taking practical steps. Faith alone will not open the door. You have to be actively preparing yourself for what's next. If you're praying for a new job, for example, then you need to be preparing your skills, building your resume, and seeking out opportunities to grow professionally. If you're praying for a relationship or for marriage, you need to work on becoming the kind of partner you want to be and healing from past hurts. Preparation means putting in the effort to improve yourself so that when the door opens, you are ready to step into the new responsibility and the new season with grace and excellence. There are many times when we can see the door ahead of us and want to rush through it. But preparation teaches us patience and wisdom. The process of getting ready is just as important as the moment the door opens. God uses these seasons to refine us, to teach us important lessons, and to shape our character. Think about the story of David in the Bible. God had anointed him as the future king of Israel, but before he stepped into that position, he spent years in preparation. He learned how to fight, how to lead, and how to trust God in the wilderness. The time David spent in the fields as a shepherd wasn't wasted. It was his preparation for the throne. You may not fully understand why you're going through certain challenges or delays, but know this: God is preparing you for something greater. He is refining your character, strengthening your faith, and equipping you with the tools you need to handle the blessings that will come when that door opens. Every moment of preparation matters, even if it doesn't make sense in the moment. Trust that God is working in your life, even when it feels like nothing is happening. When the door finally opens, you'll be ready. You'll have the spiritual, emotional, and mental strength to walk through with confidence. You'll have the wisdom to handle the new responsibilities and the maturity to manage the blessings that come with it. But it all starts with preparation. Embrace this season of preparation, because it's in this time that God is building you into the person He knows you can be. When the door opens, you'll be more than ready to step into the future He has prepared for you. Embracing change is one of the most essential steps in walking through the door that God is opening for you. Change, by its very nature, can be unsettling, challenging, and even intimidating. Most people resist change because it forces them out of their comfort zones and into the unknown. It's natural to want to hold on to the familiar, to stay in what feels safe and predictable. However, in order to step into the new season God is preparing for you, you must be willing to embrace change even when it feels uncomfortable. God opens doors, but those doors often lead to new territories, new responsibilities, and new challenges. When God opens a door, it's not just about stepping into a new opportunity. It's about stepping into a new chapter of your life, and that requires a willingness to change. If you want to walk through that door and experience the blessings and opportunities on the other side, you have to be ready to let go of the past and embrace the future that God has in store for you. One of the most difficult aspects of change is the fear of the unknown. It's easy to feel anxious when you don't know what lies ahead. You may ask yourself questions like, what if I'm not ready? What if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? These questions are natural, but they shouldn't hold you back from stepping forward. The truth is, stepping into the unknown requires faith. It requires the kind of trust in God that says, I don't know what's on the other side of this door, but I know that God has gone before me, and He is with me every step of the way. Embracing change also means letting go of the old, the familiar, and sometimes even the good things that once served you but no longer align with the new direction God is calling you to. There's an important lesson in the story of Abraham. When God called Abraham to leave his homeland and go to a land that He would show him, Abraham had no idea where he was going. All he had was God's word. God told Abraham to leave everything behind, his family, his comfort, and his security, and follow Him into the unknown. Abraham's obedience to God's call required a willingness to embrace change and trust in God's plan. He didn't know what the future held, but he was willing to let go of the past and step forward in faith. This story highlights an important truth. Sometimes the things we are most comfortable with need to be released before we can step into the new things God has for us. The old ways of thinking, the old habits, the old relationships, these things can become a barrier to the new doors that God wants to open. As you prepare to walk through the door God is opening for you, you have to be willing to let go of what's behind you, no matter how comfortable it feels. You can't carry your old baggage into a new season. Letting go of the past doesn't mean you disregard the lessons you've learned or forget about your past experiences. It simply means you're no longer allowing the past to define you. Change also requires the courage to adapt. Whether it's a new job, a new relationship, or a new role, change often means you need to adjust your thinking, your behaviors, and your habits. If you're stepping into a new job, for example, you might need to learn new skills, understand a new company culture, and adapt to a new team dynamic. If you're moving to a new city, you may need to adjust to a different way of life, different people, and different environments. Embracing change means being flexible, open-minded, and willing to learn. It's about being willing to let go of the way you've always done things and embracing new methods, new perspectives, and new opportunities to grow. It's also important to recognize that change doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes, embracing change is a process. It's about taking small steps forward, even when you don't have all the answers or when the path ahead seems uncertain. The process of change can feel uncomfortable at times, but it's in that discomfort that we grow. God often uses periods of transition to shape us, refine us, and prepare us for the next level. When you embrace change, you're allowing God to do a work in you that will make you stronger, wiser, and more capable of handling the new season ahead. One of the biggest barriers to embracing change is the fear of failure. We often resist change because we're afraid of not succeeding, of making mistakes, or of facing setbacks. But failure is not the end, it's often the beginning of something better. Failure is part of the process of growth and learning. You won't always get everything right, and that's okay. The key is to keep moving forward, learning from your mistakes, and trusting that God is with you, even in the midst of challenges. The Bible says in Proverbs 24:16, "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again." Embracing change means accepting that you may stumble, but you'll rise again, stronger and more determined than before. When God opens a door for you, He's not just giving you an opportunity. He's also providing you with a chance to grow, to stretch, and to become more of the person He's created you to be. Embracing change means stepping out of your comfort zone and trusting that God has a plan for you that is greater than what you can see in the moment. It means trusting that the changes you're going through are leading you to something better, something greater, something that aligns with God's perfect will for your life. So, as you stand before the door that God is opening for you, don't be afraid to embrace the change that comes with it. Trust that God has gone before you and that He's working all things together for your good. Let go of the past, adapt to the new, and step forward in faith. The door is open, and God is calling you to step into the new season He has prepared for you. Embrace the change and watch as God takes you to places you never imagined. Walking through the door that God opens for you also involves stepping forward with faith and confidence. Faith is the key that unlocks the potential of every opportunity that comes your way. Without faith, you might hesitate, second, guess yourself, or even walk away from the door God has opened. But with faith, you can step boldly into the unknown, trusting that God is guiding your steps and equipping you for everything you'll face on the other side. Faith is not simply the absence of fear. It's the trust that God is bigger than any fear or doubt you may experience. It's the confidence that He is in control, even when the path ahead seems unclear or daunting. When you walk in faith, you're declaring that you believe in God's promises more than the limitations you see around you. Faith empowers you to move forward even when the circumstances are not ideal, because you know that God is with you, strengthening you every step of the way. It's important to understand that walking in faith doesn't mean everything will be smooth sailing. There will be challenges and obstacles along the way. In fact, stepping through the door God opens for you often requires a season of stretching, growth, and overcoming difficulties. You may face setbacks, rejection, or times when things don't go according to plan. However, faith enables you to persevere through those difficult moments, knowing that God is using every situation to shape you and refine your character. The story of Moses and the Israelites provides a powerful example of walking in faith. When God called Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, it was a daunting task. Moses had every reason to doubt his ability. He was not an eloquent speaker, he had a history of mistakes, and he was confronting the most powerful empire in the world. Yet God called him to lead, and Moses had to step out in faith, trusting that God would equip him for the task. As Moses and the Israelites journeyed through the wilderness, they faced many challenges: lack of food, lack of water, fear of enemies, and a general sense of uncertainty about what lay ahead. But through it all, Moses relied on God's guidance and provision, and God faithfully led them through every trial. In the same way, when God opens a door for you, you might not have all the answers or a clear picture of how everything will unfold. You may feel unequipped or uncertain, but faith means trusting that God has already gone ahead of you and prepared the way. He doesn't ask you to have everything figured out. He simply asks you to trust Him, to take that step forward, and to believe that He is working all things together for your good. It's also important to recognize that faith isn't just about believing in God's ability to open doors. It's about believing in His ability to equip you once you step through those doors. Sometimes the fear and hesitation come not from the door itself, but from the idea that you're not prepared to handle what lies ahead. You might question whether you have the right skills, knowledge, or experience to succeed in the new opportunity. But faith tells us that God doesn't call us to something without equipping us for it. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." When you step forward in faith, you're relying not on your own strength or abilities, but on God's power to enable you to succeed. Walking through the door with faith also requires courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. Often, the door God opens for us is on the other side of our fears, doubts, and insecurities. It might be a new career, a new relationship, a new ministry, or a new opportunity that feels overwhelming. But courage gives you the strength to face those fears head on and take that first step. It's important to remember that God promises to be with you in every moment of uncertainty. Isaiah 41:10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Courage is about trusting that, even though you don't have all the answers, God has a plan. He has a purpose for your life, and the door He's opening is a part of that purpose. When you walk through the door with courage, you're saying, "I don't have it all figured out, but I know that God is faithful, and He will be with me every step of the way." Stepping forward in faith also means taking action. Faith without works is dead, James 2:26, and when God opens a door, He expects you to walk through it. You can't wait for everything to be perfect or for all the circumstances to line up before you take action. Trusting God means stepping forward even when you don't know exactly what's ahead. This doesn't mean being reckless or impulsive, but it means stepping out with confidence, trusting that God will guide you along the way. You have to take that first step, even when the path is unclear. As you take action, be mindful of the obstacles and challenges that may arise. Walking in faith doesn't mean the journey will be without difficulty, but it does mean that God will provide the strength, wisdom, and courage you need to overcome those obstacles. Keep your eyes fixed on God and His promises, and remember that each challenge is an opportunity for you to grow, learn, and trust Him even more deeply. Finally, walking through the door with faith and confidence requires you to maintain a positive, expectant attitude. God doesn't just open doors for you to walk through them and barely scrape by. He opens doors for you to experience His abundance, His provision, and His blessings. Approach the new opportunity with an attitude of gratitude and excitement. Trust that God is opening this door for your good, and believe that on the other side of that door are blessings, growth, and opportunities that will align with His perfect plan for your life. When God opens a door, step through it with faith and confidence. Trust in His guidance, rely on His strength, and expect great things to come. Even when the journey is uncertain or the obstacles seem too great, keep walking forward, knowing that God is with you. Walk in faith, and He will make a way where there seems to be no way. Step through that door with the confidence that God's plan for you is always good, and He will empower you to succeed in every area of your life. In conclusion, when God opens a door for you, it is not just an invitation to walk into a new opportunity. It is an invitation to walk into a new season of growth, purpose, and blessing. The key to stepping through that door lies in preparation, readiness, and embracing the changes that come with it. Trust in God's timing, trust in His guidance, and most importantly, trust in His ability to equip you for whatever lies ahead. Each of the 5 key elements, being prepared, being ready to embrace the opportunity, having the faith to step forward, adapting to the changes, and walking in confidence, are essential as you move forward into what God has planned for you. Understand that every moment of preparation, every challenge, every moment of uncertainty, and every stretch of your faith is part of the process that will bring you closer to the abundant life God has promised. Walking through the door God opens is not always easy, but it is always worth it. It requires courage, faith, and action, but with God on your side, there is no door too big, no challenge too daunting. God is opening doors for you today, and He is calling you to step through with boldness, knowing that He has already gone ahead of you. Your future is bright, your purpose is clear, and your victory is assured. So, as you stand before the doors in your life, remember, this is your moment to embrace what God has for you. Walk through that door with faith, confidence, and a heart full of expectation, because the best is yet to come. Keep trusting God, stay faithful to His call, and watch as He opens doors beyond what you could ask or imagine.